All right, welcome in. This is the Horse Racing Happy Hour for January 15th, a special Wednesday edition, a birthday edition of the program. His name is Joey K. You weren't going to tell me it was your birthday, were you? You were
No, I wasn't.
gonna
Outside of having to answer all the texts and all the Facebook messages and the phone calls, and it's great.
It is great
that people recognize you on the day you entered this world. But you get to my age, you kind of would rather stop counting. So yeah, all good. I appreciate the kind words, and I've had a pretty good birthday week so far.
My dad said something like, once you turn 25 and you can rent a car and run for Congress, it's over. Like that's essentially
I like it.
Yeah. So there you go. Joe Kristufek, of course. He'll be on the desk there at Fairgrounds today, tomorrow, whatever day that you need are watching races there. Certainly not today, but getting into the weekend. Big one, 14 races on Lecomte Day. Just one of the very best days of the year down there, or 12 races, 14 horses in that Lecomte, which we'll get to in a minute. Joe, how long have you been going to Fairgrounds, man? I know this is just part of your life now, being down there, doing the Fairgrounds things. How many years have you been heading down there?
This is my 8th season here.
Awesome.
This place, I don't know if you've been to New Orleans. Have you been?
New Orleans, but not to Fairgrounds, yeah.
Okay, yeah. New Orleans is just a special place.
Yeah.
It's a great meet at Fairgrounds. We kind of build, every 4 weeks there's a big event. They become bigger and bigger and bigger all the way to through the Louisiana Derby. And I live in a great area where I can walk to some great bars and restaurants. And, being down here, I not only enjoy the job that I do at Fairgrounds, but I enjoy the atmosphere. I went to the memorial last night, actually. And, it was a little tough, but, the people around here are very resilient. And it's, like I said, a very special place. And I'm very privileged to be able to come here every winter.
Yeah, it's awesome. You and Dooley holding down the fort there at Fairgrounds for sure, which is always spectacular. Love John Dooley on the calls down there. Joe Kristufek with us here on the Horse Racing Happy Hour. You got 2 preps this weekend. You've got the Oaks prep in the Silver Bullet Day. You've got the Derby prep in the Lecomte. We'll play our usual weekly game of buy or sell with the Lecomte later on. But in this Silver Bullet Day, 3 kind of favorites on the inside there. It's some good value, I think, at some other spots as well. Wanted to open with sort of a generic question for a guy like Joe K, who has to put out, picks every single day. You're capping all kinds of races from low-level claimers up to a race like the Lecomte. But when we get into this time of year, Joe, where we're talking about stretch outs, we're talking about horses making that move from age 2 to age 3, what are the 2 or 3 things that you're mostly looking at when you're trying to figure out, a Silver Bullet Day or a Lecomte?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I put a lot of work in, watching videos, watching replays.
Okay.
And, it's for a lot of different things. You're looking for pace, you're looking for trips, but you're also looking for professionalism. You're looking for horses that seemingly have heart. You're looking for horses that, show that desire down to the finish line, horses that can overcome adversity, and then you're looking at the pedigrees too, and you're trying to figure out whether or not they're bred to do a certain thing. Once they prove what they can do, you can throw the pedigrees kind of out the window. Once they, try 2 turns or try turf or try everything, without having a viable excuse for not doing something necessarily well. And then, Bruno DiGiulio and his team, they've got the Kentucky Thoroughbred Development Fund. They've got a website up with some of the workouts. You don't get to see all of them, but you do get to see a good amount, particularly of the better horses. And those workouts and watching those videos kind of put the finishing touches on what I'm doing.
Yeah, there's nothing like actually laying your eyes on the horse, right? The past performances can only go so far as, just the general information. They're very helpful for sure. It's a great place to start. But yeah, if you don't see those horses, Joe, and especially how they finish races, when we're talking about 6 and 7 furlong races, moving into these mile 70s, these mile and a 16th kind of races that we're going to see both in the Silver Bullet Day and in the Lecomte, how they finish is so important to me. I was talking the colleague of yours, Tony Kalo, a couple of weeks ago, and I think it was Laganos of all things, was 0 for 9 for the year, but how that horse had finished in a race at Keeneland, just watching it, I thought, you know what, that horse is going to break through at some point. I'll go ahead with that. I feel like stretch out season, it involves a lot of trusting your instincts on what your eyeballs are showing you.
1,000,000%. And part of that too is, the gallop out scenario, how they got to the finish line and then how they gallop out. So if a horse is all out to the finish line and they still gallop out well, right, and maybe the pace scenario wasn't in their favor, that's something I'm really, really looking for. If the pace scenario was in their favor and they're wrapped up across the finish line, they're not going to gallop out well because they're already pulling up,
Right.
earlier than some of the other horses. So you got to take all that into consideration, man. It's a fascinating game. You can never know too much. You can never watch too much, eyes, ears to the pavement, and, talking to people on the backstretch and getting a sense for their confidence as well. So just trying to put that puzzle together and turn it into some wages at the window.
Joe Kristufek with us. Part of that puzzle, Joe, is how the track is playing. We're talking about lots of different kinds of races on the card. No balls in in a $100,000 stakes down there. Sprinting obviously on the grass for that one. How is the track playing this year? We've seen different biases in different places, but how is it playing at Fairgrounds this year?
Yeah, I mean, I think for the most part, especially in sprint races on any dirt track, it's going to be a little bit on the forward side. Races are always, to me, a great equalizer, even on a racetrack that can be deemed as biased. For the most part, there are certain racetracks where the inside is an absolute expressway, and you know that the rail is good, and you know the track is biased regardless of the distance. But for the most part here, for a dirt track, I think the track plays pretty fair, quite honestly. And, especially, like I said, in these two-turn races. But then again, every single day is a little bit different. If you had rain 2 days before, you got a drying out track. You just always got to pay attention to it. I keep pretty detailed bias notes in the DRF formulator program that I use.
He is Joe Kristufek. He's down there in New Orleans. So let's get into these two stakes races. The Silver Bullet Day is race 9 on the card on Saturday. $150,000 for 3-year-old fillies here. Obviously, we are on the road to the Kentucky Oaks. Joe, you may not remember this, but my very early days of actually covering horse racing, you and I in 2019 were on the same Oaks horse, believe it or not. And we stood next to each other for the Oaks race in section 322 of all things. And her name was Serengeti Empress. That's exactly right. And I remember, go ahead, please. Yes. It's a spectacular day for me. Yes.
That's when my picks were actually in the program. We don't do that anymore. We don't like those short deadlines. They're only on the website. But when I was walking out, people were chanting my name. I had a huge day, came back on Derby Day, and they were not chanting my name. No. They were looking for me that day for all sorts of different reasons. So you can either be a hero or a goat. But because I saw her, run through the preps at Fairgrounds. I knew the backstory. She didn't look good on paper going into that race, but I knew she was coming into it well. And we certainly got a better price than we thought we were going to get.
Oh, my goodness. I just remember my co-host, Mike Gandolfo, at the time, he and I, we were backside, and I was still getting used to the backside thing, Joe. I had not gotten to do that. You've been at this for a very long time. I didn't attend a horse race till I was in my 20s. Okay. I came from a part of the country that just didn't have horse racing, fell in love with it once I moved here to Louisville. But I just remember she walked by and I said, "Whose Derby runner is that?" And someone said, no, that's a filly. And I said, "What's her name? I'm betting on her. I don't care what the race is." Like, I just saw her. And then, then I got to know the Tom Amos story and those kinds of things. And it made it even, more of a, it came together more in those pieces. But I do remember, do you know what you said right after that race, Joe Kristufek? How good your day was? This is how good your day was. You looked right at me and I said, "Hey man, good, nice pick." And you went, "Yeah, I didn't have the exacta though."
Yeah,
that's such a Joe K thing, man. What are you doing, dude? I just had her across the board. I was thrilled.
It wasn't that the year 2 that Maximum Security got disqualified. That cost me a bunch of money in the double. I always play that Oaks Derby double.
Of course,
Oaks Derby double, and so that was a killer. I was one of Louis, and when you're a horse player, and I've learned over the years, to pick my spots. Even when you win, you could have won more.
Oh, of course. Yes. Right. Yeah. Oh, I could have pressed in this leg of the pick 5 or whatever. Yeah. Yes. 100%. Yes. Right. Yeah, for sure. But there you go. There's our Oak story together in 322 before they, Darren has since moved us to, we've been at the same table since, for as long as I can remember, but yeah, we were happy to be next to one another for that one. Look, this is a good rendition of the Silver Bullet Day. 8 horses here. I think you can make legitimate cases for probably 6 or 7 here, Joe.
Yeah, me too. Mike Delaberto made Simply Joking the morning line favorite for Whit Beckman. She broke her maiden in the stake on Untappable Day when Whit also won the Untappable with Her Laugh. And before the race and after the race, and Her Laugh won the Untappable, this maiden won a sprint stake that wasn't nearly as, high profile. he said the whole time that Simply Joking was better than Her Laugh. So if Her Laugh was good enough to win the Untappable, and he's got Simply Joking in the Silver Bullet Day, it doesn't take a genius to try to figure out that she's probably pretty live in here.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, Whit Beckman, of course, had Honor Marie in the Kentucky Derby last year. His kids go to the same school as mine. How about that? That's how local horse racing is here in Louisville as well. Brad Cox has the horse on the inside in Chasin, and on the outside, we see Bless the Broken. With the track configuration at Fairgrounds, for people who may not play your track very often, is the outside post, is that a problem in these two-turn races? We'll talk about that when we get to the Lecomte, or will they have enough time going into that first turn to make their move?
Yeah, it kind of depends on how it plays out. I mean, I wouldn't be too worried in a field of 8, having the 8 post. I don't think Bless the Broken has a ton of speed necessarily. There is some other speed, obviously, to the inside. I think that could become more of a factor in the Risen Star, where we've got 14 horses in a 1.16 race charging into that first turn. The Risen Star, when we get to 1 1/8, there's a lot longer run into the first turn, and then Louisiana Derby at 1 3/16, and the Kentucky Derby at 1 1/4, a lot longer run into the first turn. So you got a little bit more time to sort things out. And a lot of it has to do with how much speed's in the race, how tactical your horse is. Getting hung out wide to dry on that first turn is almost always detrimental.
We have seen many of these horses between the Louisiana and Kentucky circuits. She's a Swede comes in here. The 7 horse for Kenny McPeak broke her maiden going 2 turns last out at Fairgrounds. Does that usually translate there? If a horse is performing well over the 2 turns, are they able to come back usually at Fairgrounds like that?
Yeah, I mean, I like the 2-turn experience for sure. We'll talk about, Chasin, obviously, Disco Time, and the Risen Star, 2 Brad Cox horses that haven't been 2 turns yet, but he believes that moving forward that they're going to be 2-turn horses based on what they show in the mornings. She's a Swede. I mean, she was really game in that race last time, but, the race came off the turf. I'm not sure what she beat that particular day, but if you're Ken McPeak and you've already won a maiden or you won a first level allowance and you're on the grounds, it's not like he's shipping this horse somewhere. It doesn't hurt to take a shot.
Yeah, she's a sweet daughter of American Pharoah. We've seen many of those, of course, transition to the grass and do it well. Look, I know we're not going to talk about the race here, Joe, but one of my favorite things that seems to be either correcting course or we're just getting it for a year, I don't know yet because we haven't gotten to see it play out, is we're getting so many of these 3-year-old 2-turn dirt horses back this coming season, right? We get so many good ones. Start on the Philly side with Torpedo Anna, of course, but then it gets into Sierra Leone Fierceness. So many of those horses that we saw do great things last year. This Louisiana Stakes, man, now 2 years in a row has drawn a really very bettable, very watchable field. I mean, you guys have to be thrilled with how that race has gone the last couple of years.
Yeah, those handicap races turn out well because there are horses in, and I'm going to just pull up. I got the PP sitting here, and I haven't, like I told you before, I haven't dug into it really deep.
I get it. I totally get it. Yeah.
I mean, Hit Show's legitimate. Yeah, you've got Skinner, first start for Cherie DeVoe. He's extremely legitimate. You got Track Phantom, who won the Lecomte and the Gun Runner last year. Maycox Bay, who's looking to prove that he belongs with Stakes Company that was so good last time. Outside of the 2 3-year-old races, I mean, this is the race I'm looking most forward to. I'm going to dig a lot deeper into it. Hit Show is the deserving favorite, but he doesn't necessarily have to win. And we're not talking about a 7-5 favorite here. We're talking about a 2-1, 5-2 with several other horses in the 5-1 range that you could certainly sink your teeth into if you like them enough.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, for example, Warrior Johnny and Pipeline are the 2 and 3 horse here. They're both over $500,000 in earnings. Career-wise, they're 10 and 12 to 1 in this field. I mean, it has turned into a very, very nice race, a nice spot, I think, on the calendar for so many of these older horses who are ready for a stakes race this time of year that maybe they can't find another spot. So just wanted to bring that up before we do talk Lecomte, because it has turned into I think this is now 3 years in a row where I've thought, man, that's a really nice field for the Louisiana.
Yeah, no doubt. And a lot of times it's horses that are just getting their campaigns.
Right.
They're not quite ready for a race like the Pegasus. They're not quite ready to go overseas and run in Dubai or Saudi. Maybe they will eventually, but it's a good starting point. And it's a deep field from top to bottom. Great betting race.
It's still a graded stakes. At the end of the day, we do move to the Lecomte. It'll close the card, race 12 at Fairgrounds on Saturday. Track Phantom, Instant Coffee, Call Me Midnight, Midnight Bourbon, and Enforceable before War of Will. Before that, of course, the Preakness winner in 2019, as well as winners Mo Tom on this list, Oxbow. This is Hard Spuns on this list. This is a race that if you win it, Joe, you're probably going to win some more races after it.
Yeah, for sure. And it's just the natural progression. We added the gun runner, this was the fourth running this year, the final opportunity for 2-year-olds to gain some points. And then you go to the Lecomte. And, honestly, the Risen Star is the best race of the 4. And it's not the final race. The Louisiana Derby is, but we saw last year with Sierra Leone. We've seen in recent runnings, the Risen Star is as strong as of a prep that we have, not only in Fairgrounds, but in the country. Because a lot of those horses that run in the Risen Star wind up going to the Bluegrass because that's a grade 1, and the Louisiana Derby is a grade 2. And that still means something in this industry and in the pedigree world. So, yeah, the Lecomte's a great race, and it only gets better once we move into the middle of February with the Risen Star.
We like to play a game on this show, Joe, where you tell me if a horse can win the race or not. In this case, because the Lecomte was named after a breeder named Ambrose Lecomte. They named a town in Louisiana after this guy. How about that? We're going to say if they can win, Ambrosia. And if they cannot, Hemlock. Now, obviously, we don't want any death on this show. That's not what we're doing here. But I had to come up with something to go against Ambrosia. And I think of Ancient Greece when I think of Ambrosia, Joe. So, so let's play a little.
They can win Lecomte if they can't.
And then a Hemlock if they can't.
Hemlock if they can't.
Ambrosia if they can.
Okay.
All right. $250,000 in the kitty for this one. It is a grade 3, obviously 3-year-olds here, 20 point. It is the first of the 20-point races after Joe has to depart to hang out with other celebrities in New Orleans. I will tell you about our Triple Crown Challenge for this year as part of the podcast. So make sure you are tuned in for that. Innovator is in the one hole here for D. Wayne Lucas, and Jaime Torres obviously teamed up on Seize the Gray in the Preakness last year and won that one, and the Pennsylvania Derby, of course, and the Pat Day Mile at Churchill Downs before that. Broke his maiden last out going 6 furlongs in the mud. We going Ambrosia or Hemlock on this one here, Joe?
I am going to go Hemlock on this, and I do believe the horse has talent, but again, stretching out, has the rail, probably makes the lead, but there's a ton of other horses in this race that want to go forward. The pedigree doesn't speak to 2 turns, but D. Wayne Lucas is D. Wayne Lucas. He's going to try it. If the horse won and paid $35, I wouldn't be shocked. But if I have to choose, I will go Hemlock on this one.
I mentioned the mud at Oaklawn Park. It looks like a bit of rain this coming weekend. What are you kind of anticipating for actual Lecomte? You shrug your shoulders so you don't know because you live in that kind of part of the country. Yes.
Well, it's true. And, you've got the forecast coming out with rain expected for Saturday. I've seen days here where we've had 100% chance of rain and we haven't gotten a drop. And days where we have a 5% chance of rain and it rains for 2 hours. So it's still only Wednesday. Things can change a little bit. There is some rain in the forecast on Saturday, but no rain on Friday, no rain on Sunday. So I think there's still an opportunity for it to change.
I was talking to track announcer Matt Dinnerman from Oaklawn Park the other day on our ESPN Louisville show here. And I was asking him about fairground shippers to Oaklawn and how they were faring. How are horses coming from Oaklawn faring so far at fairgrounds this year?
We haven't had a ton of them, quite frankly. Yeah. I mean, I think, the purses are so good at Oaklawn that a lot of times you'll see horses coming from Oaklawn here because maybe they're not quite good enough to compete in a first level allowance. But from a stakes perspective, this is the first big day since the gun runner and the Oaklawn meet was just getting started then. So we've only seen a couple handfuls of them. You got to evaluate each horse for what they are in the races that they're coming out of.
Coming out of a dominating win in August at Ellis Park over that 1.5 turn mile there is Brian Hernandez Jr., Kenny McPeak, and Maximum Promise, a combination we may have heard of here and I may have voted for some Eclipse Awards in this one. A son of Maximum Security, full circle on that one there, Joe. Are we going Hemlock or are we going a little Ambrosia for this one?
I'm gonna go Hemlock again.
Okay.
Only because it's tough off a long layoff like this, man. I saw that horse win at Ellis. He looked awesome. I haven't talked to Kenny McPeak yet. I don't see any workout videos posted for this horse. So I haven't done all my due diligence yet, but it's just a big ask against this field going 2 turns when you haven't raced since the middle of summer. So I'm going to be against this one.
Horse has been at Fairgrounds for a while, working there as well. Kenny McPeak and Brian Hernandez hitting at 14% currently at Fairgrounds, at least in recent races. Admiral Dennis will take the 3-hole here. Joel Rosario in town to ride for Brad Cox in this one. Was in the gun runner, up the track a bit, but now does have that 2-turn experience here, Joe. Ambrosia or Hemlock for this one?
I'm going to say Hemlock on a lot of horses that people would probably say Ambrosia for, because, I want to only give you 4 contenders that I think, have the best chance to win per se. This is a horse that was the big favorite, obviously, in the gun runner. He does have an excuse. He did stumble horribly coming out of the starting gate, didn't show a whole heck of a lot thereafter. Brad's got disco time in this race as well. Can this horse rebound? Yes. What kind of price are you going to get? It's going to be interesting to see how the betting public responds to him after the way he ran in the gun runner with the excuse. So I'm going to be against him as well.
He is a son of Constitution, a very rare matchup of Joel Rosario and Brad Cox. Only 6 such get-togethers over the last year and change. Magnitude will be in the 4-hole. A welcome, and I've said this on other shows and with other people, Joe. I don't know that anyone had a better transitional 2024 than Jose Ortiz, moving to Kentucky with his tack, and then, of course, deciding to ride at Fairgrounds in the winter. Whoever's helping him make decisions this year, Joe, I think has done a terrific job, because he's had a great year. I haven't checked in with Jose. I talked to him last, I think right ahead of the Jeff Ruby of all things. But I'd love to know how the move went, if his family's enjoying it, and those kinds of things. But as far as horse racing is concerned, boy, that move to Fairgrounds has been terrific for him.
Yeah, he's the leading jockey in the standings. He's riding first call for Steve Asmus. And it's interesting, though, I'm not sure what Steve's got this year in the 3-year-old ranks for the males. I mean, his Tastic right now might be his best. He was 3rd in the Kentucky Jockey Club. Yep. This horse, Magnitude, he was a distant 2nd in the gun runner behind a horse we're going to talk about in a little bit in Built. And I just think he is what he is. Steve always talks about continuing to get better along the road to the Kentucky Derby. And I don't know how much upside this horse has, honestly. He's a nice horse. He's an honest horse. Can probably win some minor stakes along the way. Is he top-tier Kentucky Derby caliber? I'm going to give him a Hemlock, too. He's got a lot of lengths to turn around on Built, and he had a perfect trip outside of Built that day. The pace was slow, but I just think probably going to run 4th or 5th. He'll run a good race. He'll represent well, but not a horse that I'm going to back on the win end.
Magnitude does seem to be in every other type. Races 1, 3, and 5. He did not win races 2 and 4. He did win. This will be his 6th career start for the son of Not This Time. We move to Optical, the 5-horse here. A name we get very used to there in New Orleans between Desormeaux and Jimmy Graham, of course, in the irons, 20-1. Very fair price if you wanted to back this one. Hemlock, or we go to Ambrosia here, Joe?
I'm going to go Hemlock again. Keith's been known to pull out some upsets here. He's pulled out some upsets everywhere, and especially here at Fairgrounds. But this horse just isn't fast enough. Although I saw recent work, he's putting blinkers on. I saw recent work. He worked really well with the blinkers on. Maybe he can take a step forward. Maybe this is a horse that you can put into your try and add some spice. That he's going to be every bit of 30-1. I don't think he can win the race, but I do think he can surprise some people and maybe get his number into the trifecta.
Another jock who has taken well, frankly, to New Orleans is Axel Concepcion. He'll have the mount aboard Golden Afternoon in the 6-hole here. That horse coming off the turf for all 3 of its runs, did win on debut at Kentucky Downs, then ran in that Bourbon and ran a very good second before that. 20-1 here, man. If you wanted to, I guess, hey, if you wanted to take a shot, this is where to take a shot here. Was in the Vaca Race of Barn. We're seeing that transition now from dad to son here. This coming very recently. I think it was this week, in fact. Ambrosia or Hemlock here for the 6-hole in Golden Afternoon.
I'm going to surprise you. I'm going to go Ambrosia on this one. This is Nick Vaca Race's first career starter.
Yep.
He's been at Fairgrounds himself personally since the end of October with this horse. He's very engaged with how this horse is doing. Horse has shown already, some heart on the turf. And if you look at the pedigree, his grand dam is Acoma. Acoma was a really good horse on turf, dirt, synthetic. She could run on anything. This is the first foal out of her actual dam. And although she's only run on turf, she's got 2-turn experience, or he does, Golden Afternoon. And he had a monster work the other day where he absolutely left his workmate in the dust and galloped out huge through the turn. This is my sleeper in the field. I think he's going to run big. You know, you would think that almost it was planned that Nick Vacaresa is debuting as a trainer, as you know, with his name on the program for this race. Would certainly be a nice flash if he were to win it, or at least hit the board here.
Are we going to get another shoot the nickel like we did for Adrienne DeVoe when she had her first time starter this year? Only time will tell. If Joe is right, you'll get paid, folks. So that's Golden Afternoon making the first trip to the Ambrosia side of things for us here. Calling card will be in the 7-hole. Frankie Dettori in town to ride. How about that? Maybe you'll get to watch him jump off a horse in a winner's circle there in New Orleans. He's in to ride for Mike Maker in this one. Horse comes out of a 1-mile 2-turn race, though, at Oaklawn against winners for the first time. Before that, won his debut as a New York bred at Aqueduct over the 1-turn mile there by over 17 lengths, man. That is an absolutely insane number. We going Ambrosia, we're going Hemlock here.
I am going to go Hemlock again. I saw that last race at Oaklawn. I'll tell you what, Sandman, if you're looking at Kentucky Derby Future Wager pool number 3, I thought he looked really good in that race at Oaklawn. He just seems like the kind of horse that's not going to have a problem moving forward with 1.25 miles. This horse was a distant third behind him, so I guess if you're looking at company lines, you can give this horse a chance. I just think he got a great trip that day. He didn't run very fast overall. Doesn't look like a horse to me that's going to get better as we get from 1 mile to 1 mile and a 16 to 1 mile and an 1/8 upwards. So I'm going to take a stand against him as well, and he'll probably be 8-10 to 1 in this race, I would guess.
Yeah, calling card finishing second, or third of 9. Last out was the second betting favorite in that one at Oaklawn Park. We moved to Tough Catch. He is going to wear number 8 for Dallas Stewart. Luis Saez in town, of course, to ride for this one. Slow start for Luis down there after tearing it up at Churchill in November, of course, doing most of his riding at Gulfstream Park. This is a horse with a lot of early speed. Saw this horse win the Sugar Bowl last out. I have a rule this time of year. I trust Dallas Stewart. What says Joe Kristufek?
Yeah, man, this is a tough one. I'm going to go Hemlock on this one too, although I think this horse will probably outperform his odds. You look at the pedigree, it's mostly sprint. The Grand Dam, though, she made $600,000. She won the Fantasy during the course of her career, which is a 2-turn race for 3-year-olds at Oaklawn. This horse has heart, displayed it in the most recent race when he won the Sugar Bowl here. So I just don't think against this field, 2 turns for the first time, I think he'll run pretty well, but I just can't see him winning.
Tough Catch in the 8. Dapper Moon in the 9, which, what a great horse name. Dapper Moon, son of Malibu Moon, of course. Edgar Morales gets the ride here. Underrated 19% winning percentage for Edgar Morales right now.
Yeah, and it's Dallas Stewart's other runner. I believe the lone Louisiana bred in the field. He, too, has got heart. He showed it when he won over Hawija in an allowance race last time. This is a horse that's got 2-turn experience, a Breeders' Futurity, Street Sense, Kentucky Jockey Club, went forward in those races and, ran fairly well to be 4th in a couple of them. I see a similar scenario here, a forward trip, losing some ground in the stretch. So I'm going to go Hemlock with him too.
Okay. Wow, man. Oh man. These poor horses. Yeah. I'll tell you what, you know what happens. No, when you get to a 14-horse field, of course you have to say no to a bunch. I mean, are you like me? Like you get to the Derby, do you start with who you think won't win the race? Cause that's what I do. I try to eliminate horses before I pick the winner.
Yeah. I think I do that with every race. I go through, you set up the pace scenario and then you eliminate horses that don't look fast enough and the pace scenario is against them. And you start from there, whether it's a Derby or a non-2 for 5 on a Thursday.
The 10-hole is Mo Better Than Good. Won on debut under Kendrick Carmouche at Saratoga in September. Kenny McPeak bringing this one down. Colby Hernandez gets the mount here. If you wanted to be positive about this, the sprinter route number for Kenny McPeak is 15%. He comes off these kinds of layoffs at 19%, Joe. Is this a little bit too much here, though?
Yeah, I mean, this is a great race for Kenny to bring this horse back. Give him some 2-turn experience, put him where he belongs next time, whether that's in an open race at Fairgrounds or at Oaklawn, or even just getting this horse back to New York where he belongs because he's New York bred. Take advantage of that program. You'll see trainers do this sometimes. You throw them to the wolves in a comeback race, just kind of trying to get an acid test for them. And I think that's what the story is with this horse. So I'll go Hemlock and all capitals for this one.
There you go. 4 horses left. You're going to get 3 positive responses from a guy named Joe Kristufek at Fairgrounds Zolands. I'm just kidding. There's 2. He's out there in the fairgrounds. He'll be on the desk, of course, on Saturday for Lecomte Day and Silver Bullet Day and Louisiana Day and whatever else other race. The Colonel races this week. Colonel who? Oh my gosh.
Colonel Power, yeah.
Power, that's right. What a name, by the way. I'll never have a name that cool. Disco Time is in the 11. Florent Giroux for Brad Cox. This is a horse that's 2 for 2 lifetime. Comes in at 9-2 off the 1-turn mile win against winners for the first time. Last out, Joe. I imagine this has to be an Ambrosia for you.
Yeah, this is going to be, even though he's making his 2-turn debut. I know Brad has always liked this horse. He's an imposing physical specimen. He's been working heads up in the mornings with Encino, who is, I believe, running tomorrow. I believe he's running Thursday. So he looks good. He looked good in the gallop out on the work. He's 2 for 2. He's got mostly sprint influences in the pedigree, but he looks like a big horse that's probably going to be have no issue with distance moving forward. I think this is one of Brad Cox's better 3-year-old colts. So, I don't think he needs to be on the lead. I think he'll break and try to sit a stalking trip, but I'm going to go Ambrosia for this one as well.
Joe going Ambrosia for a Cox on the male side of things, on the colt side of things. As far as the Derby Trail, we know how loaded Cox is on the Oaks side of things. We go to Jolly Samurai, the 12 here, out of the Pish Barn, did run in the Springboard Mile last out at Remington Park. Before that, did win a black type stakes there as well, over 7 furlongs. Joe, Hemlock, or are we going Ambrosia with this one?
Yeah, we're going Hemlock with this horse. Just doesn't look fast enough. Looks like the connections are probably wanting to get a table in the dining room at Fairgrounds and enjoy New Orleans for the day. That's my guess. It's worth taking a shot. Where else are you going to run this horse? He's already run 3 times. You're not going to run an allowance race against older horses because those don't even really come up at this time of year. You're going to run in stakes, and you might as well take your shot. Cole Battle did come back to win his next start, the Smarty Jones at Oaklawn. He looks to be somewhat legitimate, so they're taking a shot here. But I'll definitely be against this one.
Yeah, you're right about this time of year. I was joking with another guest that I haven't written 2024 instead of 2025 on anything, but I have written 3 and up instead of 4 and up, and we're not in 3 and up season right now. So that's a shame on me. There you go.
Some of the maiden races at Fairgrounds we're 3 and up for some of them, but yeah, you're right. We're not to 4 and up yet in the 3 and up in the better races yet.
Yeah, not quite yet. Built comes in the 13. The Catman, Wayne Catalano, had him on the Kentucky Racing Spotlight a couple months back when he went over 3,000 career wins. An absolute mainstay there at Fairgrounds. Did win the Gun Runner with this horse by does that say 7 million lengths? I can't see it. Anyways, and so Jared Loveberry obviously getting the mount here again, was ahead of Magnitude, some other horses that we mentioned that will be in this field again. Joe, can he repeat that performance?
He certainly can. I'll go Ambrosia and all caps on this one. He made an easy lead from the rail last time. A couple of other horses stumbled out of the gate, including Render Judgment. We mentioned Admiral Dennis earlier. He got an easy lead. He won 49 and change for good horses. That is super slow. But if you look at the way he did it, he was relaxed. Off the far turn, he just left Magnitude, who was in a perfect, stalking, pressing spot, left him in his dust, was wrapped up underneath the finish line and galloped out great. He's got a big, imposing stride, good physical. And, Catalano, he drew post 13 here. I thought, maybe he's going to scratch because he doesn't like the post. It's a tough post. But there's 4, 5, 6 horses that are going to go out. If he can just somehow not lose too much ground on that first turn and sit a stalking trip, this horse can sit 4th or 5th and win. So I see that scenario playing out for him, and we'll see if it does.
Yeah, we saw him at Keeneland in his maiden run, end up sitting right off the hip of the leader for quite a bit, gets into that main stretch there at Keeneland over the 7 furlong course and pull away in that one as well. Seattle Road on the outside. I think this is my favorite name in the field between Quality Road and Seattle Slang on the dam side, of course. 20-1 here. You do get Marcelino Pedrosa Jr. for Tom Amos, becoming more and more of a combination, especially when they run together at Horseshoe Indianapolis. But where do we see this one? Broke its maiden last time at Fairgrounds over this course.
Yeah, I'll go Hemlock on this one too. Tough post, got a dream run. If you watch that replay, got a dream run up the rail in his most recent start. I do like the way he galloped out. I do think he's got an opportunity to continue to progress. I just think, he's going to have to work a lot of magic from that outside post. This horse likes to come from off the pace, but what are they going to do? Take him back to dead last in a field of 14, try to make one big run, pass as many horses as you can. This is another horse, though, that I would consider using in the try because he's going to be a big price and he's going to be running late in a race that should have an honest pace to it.
Marcelino Pedrosa, in an era where I see a lot of chatter online about is my jockey riding through the finish line, has more third place finishes than he does second and first place finishes. And it's not because he's quitting, it's because he's riding through the line and will get you there. So if you need a horse, maybe for a trifecta kind of play, it might be Seattle Road on the outside. If someone is watching on Saturday, Joe, and I have on our show sheet, takeout rates and different things, what kind of bets would you tell people are the best, as far as bang for the buck at New Orleans, down there at Fairgrounds? I seem to think it just, and this is totally anecdotal, but just playing doubles at Fairgrounds seems to be a pretty fruitful way to play Fairgrounds.
Yeah, on a day-to-day basis, we've had a lot of favorites win here during the early portions of the meet, but you're seeing these pick fives. Some of them, they're not paying great. They're paying $200, $300, $500. Right. But if you got two singles on a pick five sequence and you can, come up with a $36 ticket and get back 300, 400, 500, there's nothing wrong with that. You just got to catch, one price in the sequence. Saturday, though, is a whole different animal. There's full fields. There's ridiculously competitive races. Try to take advantage of your best opinions. To me, I'd rather sink a good amount of my bankroll into a pick five, try to take a shot at a nice score. If you like a long shot, don't be afraid to play in one of these big fields, stacking across the board wager. Exactas are great. You mentioned the doubles, the pick threes. If you got a key in a pick three sequence, there's a lot of different ways on a card like this to take advantage of horses that you have strong opinions on. So don't be married necessarily to one wager. Be married to the horses you like the most.
Well, there you go. He's Joey Kristufek at Joey Decay Racing on Twitter and all of the other places. He's down there at Fairgrounds in New Orleans. We appreciate him playing Hemlock and playing Ambrosia with us here on the Horse Racing Happy Hour. Joe, I honestly don't know how we've gone this long. You haven't been on the show, so I appreciate you jumping on.
Yeah, no, is it typical for somebody to, out of 14 horses, only have 3 they think can win? I mean, I think I'm going out. That means I like the race, right? I should be firing on this race. I got 3 horses I like quite a bit.
Yeah, it sounds like you should indeed. All right, Joe, we appreciate you very much.
Cheers.
Happy birthday. Cheers to you. Have a great week down there. And look, maybe we'll talk to you in a month. How about that?
Sounds good. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, Joe. There you go. Joe Kristufek down there in New Orleans. Appreciate him joining us here on the Horse Racing Happy Hour. We are very excited to announce our Triple Crown Challenge for this year. So if you're on social media, come find us wherever you find us there. We have, it's a very simple Google Doc. Essentially, the Derby preps all the way through the Belmont. The Triple Crown races are 200 points, and then all the other races are based on the Derby points that they will be ascribed ahead of the Kentucky Derby. So we're starting with the Lecomte this weekend. It's a 20-point race. You put in your A horse. If that horse scratches, your B horse, which you also put in, will be your horse for that race. If they both scratch, we'll give you the post-time favorite in that race. So it's that simple. Look for us at Horse Happy Hour on Twitter. You can email the show if you need to, horseracinghappyhour@gmail.com. I'll send you the link for that as well. But I'm Louis Rebell. This has been the Horse Racing Happy Hour for January 15th of 2025. Thanks to Joe Kristufek for joining us from Fairgrounds ahead of this one. We'll talk on Friday to his colleague Kevin Kilroy at 1040 on Rabot & Co. if you are so inclined to get a little bit more about more of the stakes races that'll happen there on Saturday at Fairgrounds. For producer Zach, who is busy today, I'm Louis Rabot. We'll see you next week on the Horse Racing Happy Hour.